Welcome back. This morning, we're shining the spotlight on the controversial evidence at the center of OnlyFans model Courtney Clenney's homicide case. Clenney is accused of stabbing her boyfriend Christian Obumseli to death inside of their Miami condo back in 2022.
When internet celebrity meets allegations of deadly violence, the resulting story captivates millions. We're examining the criminal prosecution of Courtney Clenney, an OnlyFans content creator charged with fatally stabbing her partner inside their upscale Miami residence. Beyond the tabloid headlines lies a complicated narrative involving accusations of abuse, contested evidence, and ongoing courtroom drama that has persisted for 3 years following the death of Christian Obumseli, age 27. This isn't simply another sensationalized crime story for public consumption. Rather, it represents a tangled web of serious allegations, protracted legal confrontations, and troubling evidence that continues emerging and evolving. The case has captured national attention not just because of the shocking nature of the crime itself, but because of the unique circumstances surrounding both the accused and the victim, as well as the numerous legal complications that have prolonged the path to justice. The principals in this tragedy were two young individuals whose paths intersected with fatal consequences. Christian Obumseli, known as Toby to friends and family, worked as a cryptocurrency trader and hailed from Texas. At just 27 years old, he represented the new generation of financial professionals navigating the volatile world of digital currency trading. Those who knew him described a young man with ambition, intelligence, and his entire future stretching before him. His girlfriend, Courtney Clenney, had cultivated a significant internet presence under the handle Courtney Taylor across Instagram and OnlyFans platforms. At 26 years old at the time of the incident, she had successfully built a substantial following across social media. Her digital content business reportedly generated approximately $1.8 million per year, placing her among the top earners on these platforms. She represented the modern phenomenon of internet celebrity, where traditional paths to fame have been replaced by direct audience engagement through digital content creation. Their romantic involvement was characterized by instability from the very beginning. Legal filings and testimony from witnesses describe a partnership plagued by persistent conflicts, accusations of physical violence from both sides, and confrontations so loud and disturbing that residents throughout their expensive apartment complex could hear them clearly through walls and floors. Friends and acquaintances of the couple noticed warning signs, but like many toxic relationships, the situation continued to deteriorate despite red flags. The couple had moved between multiple residences, including time spent in Austin, Texas, before eventually settling in Miami. Each location seemed to bring the same pattern of explosive arguments and alleged violence, suggesting deep-rooted issues that transcended their environment.
The volatile relationship reached its tragic end on April 3, 2022. Inside their condominium tower located in Miami's Edgewater neighborhood, an emergency call initiated a chain of events that would dominate headlines for years to come. Christian Obumseli sustained a fatal knife injury to his chest, which Clenney would subsequently characterize as a defensive action necessary for her protection during what she claimed was a violent confrontation. Responding Miami officers encountered a disturbing scene that would be seared into their memories. Obumseli had suffered a penetrating wound just beneath his neck that severed a major blood vessel. The precision of the wound location proved fatal. The knife had struck a main artery. Despite the best efforts of emergency medical personnel who rushed to the scene, their intervention proved unsuccessful, and he was declared deceased at the location. Photographs from the scene, subsequently disclosed by Miami-Dade prosecutors, revealed shocking details that would become central to the case. The images captured Clenney dressed in athletic wear, a sports bra and basketball-themed sweatpants, both saturated with the victim's blood. Her extremities, both hands and feet, displayed extensive blood coverage that investigators would later analyze to understand the sequence of events. These visuals would become central to prosecutors' arguments challenging her self-defense narrative, as they believed the blood patterns and evidence told a story quite different from what Clenney was claiming. The luxury apartment itself, with its stunning waterfront views and upscale amenities, became forever marked by tragedy. What should have been a dream home for a young couple instead became a crime scene, with forensic investigators meticulously documenting every detail that might help reconstruct the final moments of Christian Obumseli's life. The investigation revealed substantial evidence pointing to a troubled relationship history that extended well before the fatal stabbing. Authorities documented prior incidents, including Clenney's arrest for domestic battery against Obumseli at a Las Vegas lodging facility in July 2021. This earlier incident demonstrated that violence in their relationship was not a one-time occurrence but rather a recurring pattern that authorities had already documented. Security camera recordings from their building proved especially significant in constructing the prosecution's timeline and theory of the case. Footage captured in February 2022, merely 2 months before the fatal encounter, appeared to document Clenney physically assaulting Obumseli inside an elevator. The video showed her pushing and striking him multiple times while he appeared to try to avoid confrontation. This footage, which prosecutors would cite as evidence contradicting her victim status and demonstrating aggressive behavior patterns, became one of the most powerful pieces of evidence in their arsenal. Residents of their building provided corroborating accounts that painted a picture of a relationship spiraling out of control. Those living in proximity to the couple reported regularly overhearing intense, violent-sounding disputes at all hours. One neighbor residing beneath their previous Austin penthouse residence told reporters the arguments were so severe they literally spilled over into the unit below, with sounds of crashing, screaming, and physical altercations becoming disturbingly routine. Building management had reportedly received multiple complaints about the couple's fights, though the exact number and nature of these complaints became part of the investigative record. These witness accounts would prove crucial in establishing the pattern of violence that prosecutors argued led inevitably to the tragic conclusion on April 3. Clenney's arrest didn't immediately follow the stabbing incident, a fact that would generate significant controversy and public debate. She underwent psychiatric evaluation at a medical facility before transferring to a rehabilitation center. This postponement sparked debate, with critics suggesting her ethnicity and online prominence resulted in preferential handling compared to typical defendants in similar circumstances. Many questioned whether a person without her financial resources and public profile would have received the same treatment. 4 months elapsed before authorities apprehended Clenney in Hawaii during August 2022. She had traveled to the islands during this period, which raised additional questions about flight risk and the decision not to arrest her immediately. Following extradition to Florida, she faced second-degree murder accusations that could result in significant prison time if convicted. Her legal representation, headed by attorney Frank Prieto, has consistently argued self-defense from the beginning of the case. They maintain Obumseli initiated aggression in the relationship and posed a genuine threat to Clenney's safety during the stabbing incident. The defense strategy has focused on presenting Clenney as a victim of domestic violence who was forced to take drastic action to protect her own life. They've argued that the single stab wound demonstrates she wasn't trying to kill him but rather was trying to defend herself in a moment of desperation and fear. Prosecutors present an opposing narrative backed by extensive evidence. They contend evidence demonstrates Clenney functioned as the primary aggressor throughout the relationship, with crime scene documentation and historical violence incidents supporting murder charges rather than justified self-defense. They argue that the evidence shows a pattern of Clenney attacking Obumseli, not the other way around, and that her claim of self-defense is contradicted by physical evidence and witness testimony. Released scene photographs carry substantial weight in the prosecution's strategy. These images document not merely the immediate aftermath but provide critical forensic context that experts would analyze in detail. The photographs show forensic personnel documenting Clenney, whose clothing and skin displayed extensive blood evidence from Obumseli. Reports indicate her attire, the sports bra, robe, and NBA-branded pants, were thoroughly soaked in the victim's blood. She wore no footwear, and blood was evident on both her hands and feet. Forensic experts would examine these blood patterns to determine things like how close she was to Obumseli when he was stabbed, whether there were signs of a struggle, and the sequence of events based on blood spatter analysis. The residence itself provided investigative clues beyond just the immediate crime scene. Despite its location in a prestigious waterfront high-rise offering panoramic views of Miami's skyline and Biscayne Bay, the interior scene starkly contrasted with the building's luxurious facade. Investigators recovered the kitchen knife used in the attack, measuring the blade length and analyzing it for fingerprints and DNA evidence. Blood patterns throughout the unit helped reconstruct the events of that evening, showing the movement of both individuals and potentially contradicting or supporting various aspects of Clenney's account. Among the case's most concerning elements is what investigators describe as a clear pattern of domestic violence that escalated over time. The 2021 Las Vegas incident represented merely the initial documented episode that came to official attention, but evidence suggests the violence may have started even earlier in their relationship. The February 2022 elevator video seemingly contradicts Clenney's victimization claims by showing her physically attacking Obumseli while he appeared to be trying to de-escalate the situation. Multiple witnesses and neighbors described hearing frequent violent confrontations between the pair, characterizing these incidents as deeply disturbing and unlike typical couples arguments. Some reported hearing crashes, screams, and what sounded like physical impacts. This alleged violence pattern forms a cornerstone of the prosecution's theory. Rather than a victim acting defensively, they argue Clenney consistently instigated violence, making the April 3rd stabbing the ultimate escalation of progressive abuse. They point to the documented incidents, witness testimony, and video evidence as demonstrating that she was the dominant aggressor in the relationship, not Obumseli. The defense, however, maintains that Clenney was a victim of abuse who sometimes fought back, and that the incidents cited by prosecutors don't tell the complete story of their relationship dynamics. They argue that reactive violence from an abuse victim doesn't negate their victimization. Moving into 2025, the case has experienced significant procedural complications beyond typical criminal proceedings that have delayed the path to trial. During May 2024, Judge Laura Cruz determined that Miami-Dade prosecutors violated attorney-client privilege by obtaining access to confidential communications between defense counsel and Clenney's family. This determination triggered substantial changes to the prosecution team and raised serious questions about prosecutorial conduct. The violation involved accessing private conversations that should have been protected, representing a significant breach of legal ethics and constitutional protections. The initial lead prosecutor withdrew in March 2025 after judicial ruling allowed his deposition regarding these violations. Miami-Dade Assistant State Attorney Sean Abuhoff, who originally led the prosecution when charges were filed, assumed responsibility for the case. This change brought both continuity, since Abuhoff was familiar with the case from its inception, and new challenges as the prosecution team had to reorganize its strategy. Clenney's parents also faced legal scrutiny in a separate but related matter. Both were arrested in January 2024 on charges involving unauthorized access to Obumseli's computer systems and electronic devices, further complicating the case. The allegations suggest they may have attempted to access the victim's digital accounts, potentially to delete information or gather evidence for their daughter's defense. This development added another layer of complexity to an already convoluted legal situation. The case's financial dimensions have generated significant controversy and public outrage. Despite incarceration pending trial, Clenney has allegedly maintained substantial earnings from her OnlyFans account, managed by third parties during her detention. This situation has raised ethical questions about whether someone accused of murder should be able to profit from the fame generated by their alleged crime. Even more surprisingly, in April 2025, approaching the third anniversary of Obumseli's death, Clenney listed a $1.4 million residential property for sale. This luxury home was acquired after the killing, raising questions about how a murder defendant could purchase such expensive real estate while imprisoned. The source of funds for this purchase became a matter of public speculation, with many wondering whether her continued OnlyFans income enabled the purchase. Her $1.8 million annual income from social media at the time of the killing has become integral to public discourse surrounding the case, illustrating the unusual intersection of internet fame and serious criminal allegations. It highlights how modern content creators can maintain income streams even while facing serious legal jeopardy, a phenomenon that would have been impossible in previous generations. Amid extensive legal proceedings and media focus on Clenney, it's essential to remember the tragedy's victim. Christian Obumseli was merely 27 when his life ended prematurely. A cryptocurrency professional from Texas, acquaintances described him as someone with tremendous potential and his entire future ahead. He was working in an emerging field, building his career, and had dreams and aspirations that will now never be realized. Obumseli's family has actively pursued justice, attending hearings and publicly expressing their conviction that this constitutes murder, not self-defense. They've endured both their devastating loss and the prolonged legal process accompanied by intense media attention. The family has had to watch as their son's death became a media spectacle, with graphic crime scene photos released publicly and every detail of his relationship dissected in court filings and news reports. The nearly 3-year duration with trial still pending has proven particularly challenging for Obumseli's loved ones, who continue seeking accountability for his death. Each delay, each legal complication, each postponement extends their pain and prevents them from finding closure. They've had to witness Clenney continuing to earn money, purchase luxury property, and maintain her public profile while their son lies in his grave. This case prompts important discussions about domestic violence, internet celebrity culture, and criminal justice administration. Clenney's delayed arrest, combined with her continued income generation while incarcerated, has led some to question whether her social media status has influenced her treatment within the system. Would someone without her wealth and following have been afforded the same considerations? The case also illuminates complicated domestic violence dynamics where traditional victim-aggressor roles may be ambiguous. While Clenney asserts self-defense, evidence suggests a more nuanced reality involving both parties in a toxic, violent partnership. This complexity challenges simplified narratives about domestic violence and reminds us that these situations can be multifaceted, though that complexity doesn't necessarily justify lethal violence. The extensive digital evidence, from security footage to social media content, demonstrates how contemporary technology has transformed domestic violence investigation and prosecution. The couple's relationship was documented across multiple digital platforms, offering investigators unprecedented insight into their private interactions. This digital trail provided evidence that would have been impossible to obtain in previous decades. As of 2025, Courtney Clenney remains detained awaiting trial on second-degree murder charges. Legal proceedings have experienced multiple postponements due to various complications, including prosecutorial violations and attorney changes. The case maintains significant public interest, with many closely monitoring developments awaiting resolution. Defense attorneys continue asserting self-defense, while prosecutors express confidence in their murder case despite the setbacks they've experienced. Recent developments, including prosecutor transitions and continuing legal challenges, indicate this case may face additional delays before reaching trial. Both sides appear prepared for an extended legal confrontation, with substantial evidence and expert testimony anticipated. When the trial finally begins, it's expected to be lengthy and highly publicized, with both sides presenting competing narratives about what happened that April night. The Courtney Clenney case transcends typical true crime narratives. It represents a tragic convergence of contemporary social media culture, domestic violence, and criminal justice complexities. Fundamentally, it involves the senseless death of a young man whose life ended in what prosecutors allege was murder, not self-defense. As legal proceedings continue, this case serves as a sobering reminder that toxic relationships can escalate to fatal violence regardless of social media prominence or financial achievement. The comprehensive evidence, from scene photographs to surveillance recordings, depicts a deeply troubled relationship marked by violence and chaos. For Christian Obumseli's family and friends, the pursuit of justice persists. For Courtney Clenney, the next phase will unfold in a Miami courtroom, where jurors will ultimately determine whether her actions that April evening constituted murder or justifiable self-defense. This case will likely continue attracting public attention as it approaches trial, serving as a complex illustration of how domestic violence, internet fame, and criminal justice converge in modern America. Regardless of outcome, it's a tragedy that has already claimed one life and permanently altered many others. What's your perspective on this case? Do Clenney's self-defense claims seem credible, or does the evidence better support the prosecution's murder theory? Share your thoughts in the comments section. and remember to subscribe for more comprehensive analyses of the most compelling true crime cases in today's headlines.